Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. Ever wonder what mindset you have to be in to win, to be successful and achieve? How about staying focused on your goals without being distracted by your major competitors? Today's guest was Miss Earth Canada 2008, Miss World Canada 2010, third runner-up for Miss Universe Canada 2013, and Mrs. Galaxy Canada 2020, and she has a third-degree black belt in Tae Kwon Do. So today, I'm joined by Denise Garrido, who is here to discuss the importance of setting your mindset for your success. Denise, welcome. Welcome to Empowered.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy that you're here because, I want to talk about mindset and who best to discuss it but you. But you have been in so many competitions and probably for your entire life. So how do you stay focused on your goals and not get distracted by your competitors?
So when there's a goal that you want, you have to be singularly focused. And so I'm all about having lists of things that I need to accomplish in order to attain these goals. And it doesn't matter if it's a competition or if it's for a business, for anything. If you're in school, you have a list of things to keep you focused. But then it's also, if you're in competition or if you have competitors, to not compare yourself with others. There's a quote that my husband always reminds me of, and it's success is the thief of joy. And so if you're always comparing yourself, you can't really find the joy in what you're doing, because either you become complacent because you see that, oh, this person's not doing that great of a job. So like if there's a sense of superiority to your competition, you might become complacent. If you feel intimidated by your competition, then you might just give up and think to yourself, there's no point in even trying. So comparison is the thief of joy. So I try not to compare myself whenever I'm doing anything. I try to just focus on being that I'm the only obstacle to myself. So in Tae Kwon Do, there was this plaque in our dojang, and the plaque always said the greatest challenge to yourself in Tae Kwon Do is you. And so it's your mind that you have to overcome. So that's essentially why, in terms of competition, you just focus on yourself.
And I think those are great words to live by. Focus on yourself, because we all get intimidated and then we start comparing ourselves and nothing good can come out of that. I want to talk about, why do you feel that it's important to create good habits, even with the mundane daily things?
Okay, so this is another thing that I really live by, is that how you do one thing. And I think this is a quote, again, it was my husband. He's in my mind all the time, but like they're positive things.
But it's positive,
How
yes.
you do one thing. Exactly. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if the little things, you're like, I'm not really going to put the effort into it. Then when it comes to the bigger things, that habit, right? You repeat things over and over. These are neural connections you're building every time, and it becomes a habit. And it, like being sloppy, will become a habit. Not really putting your full effort into things becomes a habit. Mm-hmm. And so you want to create good habits in even the little things, because that will carry through in everything else you do. There's also another quote, like if you want something done, you get someone busy to do it, because this person is like, they have a fast pace and they're just getting things done rapidly, because it's the habit that they've created.
Yeah. So let's step out of the habit, because this is discipline. Being a third-degree black belt in Tae Kwon Do, why is physical well-being also important in supporting a healthy mind? Because I'm a firm believer of this as well.
Yeah. So well, first of all, if you're sick, it's very hard to focus on anything, right? So how could you be working towards a goal if you're in the hospital all the time? Like you can, but it's much more difficult to be sharp focused if you're dealing with an ailment or if you're exhausted. And so physical well-being is very important, and taking the time into your physical well-being now, even though it's just like, I don't have the time for it, you make the time for it, you prioritize the time for it, because it will pay in the long run. And even physical exercise, better antidepressant than any drug. It boosts your mood. It boosts your productivity because you're getting all of this blood flow to your brain. You're getting all this oxygen to the brain. You're
Denise,
thinking clear.
hang on to that
Yes.
thinking clear. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing the importance of setting your mindset for success. And Denise, before we went to break, you were talking about thinking clear. Getting the physical activity is really good to clear your mind. So please continue.
Yeah. And so being physically healthy and staying active has also long-term benefits to your mind. I saw a CBC documentary that actually showed almost like gymnastics for seniors. And by doing physical activity that's challenging the body, it's actually strengthening your brain. So your corpus callosum is the center of the brain that connects both hemispheres. And when you are physically challenging your body, both sides of the body, you are actually strengthening your brain in the process. And it actually helps with long-term effects of dementia. It helps reduce that. They found there's a correlation that with people with Alzheimer's, that corpus callosum is starting to deteriorate. But the way you can be strengthening it is by physically challenging your body on both sides of the body. So again, it's just your brain is healthier. Long-term effects are so beneficial to you. And that just helps your mindset for success. You're sharper. You're able to just do so much more. So physical well-being, it's hard, especially when you're trying to get things done. But if you're not sharpening that axe, right? If you're not keeping yourself sharp, it'll have long-term consequences. And getting sunshine. I'm a big proponent to getting sunshine, getting out there
with sunscreen.
And it helps
with sunscreen though.
It's the thing. You need to have healthy doses. Obviously, if you're fair like I am, it's very small doses because you need that vitamin D that you get from the sun, but getting the sunshine also helps with resetting your circadian rhythm. So you're able to sleep better. There's benefits even to, we know vitamin D helps with your immune system, again, for keeping healthy. The sunrises and sunsets, that's red light. And red light actually has anti-inflammatory properties that athletes will use special equipment with red light that helps with healing their body afterwards, after intense training. And then blood pressure will go down from sunshine. So this is kind of the geek in me, the little nerd in me, but I really feel that it's so important to stay active and to get outside, and obviously, doing your best to eat as well as you can, everything in moderation. But I truly believe a strong, healthy body will also give you a strong, healthy mind.
I agree with you. I agree. I need to work out in order to clear, negativity from my head. Makes me feel better, makes me more comfortable, and it calms me as well. I want to switch over to people now, networks of people. A lot of people surround themselves with negative people or positive people. What does your network of people have to do with your particular mindset?
Yeah, so it's important that you surround yourself with people that will uplift you. There's a Jim Rohn quote that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you really think about it, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're around people that are not very, all they do is complain, not very ambitious, you become the average of that. If you're around people that are go-getters and let's invest in this, or I want to be very, I don't know, they're very active. They will surround themselves with like-minded people if they want to keep raising themselves up. So you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that could be, whether you're a business person, then you want to surround yourself around other business people. If you're an academic, you want to surround yourself around other academics of high standing, right? You want to be almost the lazy one of the group, because then being around other people that are more ambitious, it kind of makes you raise your standards for yourself as well. So I company is very important. And I know like sometimes there's people in our lives that have been in our lives for a long time and they tend to be more pessimistic, negative, and you feel kind of down being around them. Like do what you can to at least, minimize that time if you can. And like the 5 people you spend most time with, it could include other like an audiobook and listening to someone who really will inspire you. So if I'm ever feeling kind of in a rut, like I'll just plug in an audiobook of an author that really gets me, excited and energized. And that could be one of the 5 people you spend most time with, depending on, what your work environment is.
So I think it's really important to surround yourself with really good people as well to help you out throughout life. So we'll be right back with more. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing the importance of setting your mindset for your success. So, Denise, how do you avoid burnout and keep firing on all cylinders? Because life is exhausting.
Yep. And especially nowadays where you can't really turn it off. Before we had cell phones, before the advent of all this technology, which is amazing and wonderful and has made our lives so convenient, it's the double-edged sword where you can't turn it off. People are expecting you to respond immediately. And all that mental stimulation will burn you out eventually. It's a lot. There's no recovery time, and our bodies need that recovery time. Whether you're an athlete training, you need that recovery time afterwards to give your muscles a break, to then build and to grow. And so when it comes to like personal burnout, so I was kind of talking earlier about sharpening the axe, and like the old tale of the two lumberjacks that you got this really big buff lumberjack, and then you got this little scrawny one, and the challenge was that they had to both cut wood and see who would cut the most. And so the big one was like, okay, well, sure, I'll take on this challenge, because he's looking at his competition and got a little bit full of himself. So they start cutting, and ever so often the big lumberjack would see the little guy kind of run off for 10 minutes, and then he'd come back, and then he'd continue chopping away. And so by the end of their time, and they look at the piles of wood that were cut, the little guy actually ended up beating the big one. And so it's just like, how in the world does this even happen? You're so small. Like, I was cutting nonstop. You're taking all these breaks. But every time he was taking his break, he was sharpening his axe. Yeah. So every time he's cutting through, it's that much more efficient, right? You're working with something sharp and more efficient than getting more dull and more worn out. You're not working on all cylinders at that point. You're just getting tired and you're not as sharp anymore. And so there's actually been studies that look at people's efficiency. And if you're just going nonstop, your exhaustion will reflect in the quality of your work and your productivity. There's, how we have circadian rhythms, which is our natural rhythms throughout the day. So, you wake up in the morning, you get tired at night, you go to sleep. And that's like the 1-day rhythm. Throughout the day, there's also a thing called ultraradians, where it's like there's like mini rhythms throughout the day. And it's where like you're exerting, but then there's like a recovery period. And these little ultraradians go every 15 to 20 minutes. So it's like 15, 20 minutes of like exertion. And then your body's natural flow wants to have a little bit of a recoup in between. So if you try to incorporate mini breaks, whether it's just look away from the screen for a second, stretch, get up, grab a glass of water, it's just break that for a moment, so that way you're able to sharpen the axe. Even elite level athletes or musicians or actors, 90 minutes, like they'll go 90 minutes, but then like you stop for a bit, because you're giving yourself time to now take in everything that you've just done and to just reset yourself, so you're much more productive and more efficient in what you do. And same thing goes when you're studying for exams. I tried pulling the all-nighter, and I'm like, oh yeah, people do it. It must be a great, it must work. And so I pulled an all-nighter for an organic chemistry exam. And I went into that exam and I was just looking at my page and I'm seeing words, but I had no idea what I was even looking at because cognition, your brain function just goes down from exhaustion.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to like surgeries, like medicine, or if you're going into a court, right? And the judge is there, and if they've been going the whole day, the likelihood of a positive ruling for you by the end of the day goes down drastically than if you were like the first person at the beginning of the day or right after lunch, right? Because they've just had their break.
Right.
So
Right.
they're in a better state for making judgments. So sharpening the axe is very important. It makes you feel better, you're more efficient, everything just works better.
And
You don't like
I love that metaphor of sharpening the axe because I mean, we can we can use that for everything, whether, as you said, cramming for exams, you're at work. It's really important to get up and stretch, have a glass of water, go say hello to a colleague, come back and sit down and start working again. When we come back from this commercial break, I want to talk to you about something that actually breaks my heart and something that you've been through that was, I would think, mortifying. However, you've learned from it and you want to share what you learned from it. So please don't go away. This is a really good story. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski. On today's episode, we're discussing the importance of setting your mindset for your success. And today I'm joined by Denise Garrido, an executive coordinator, a third-degree black belt, and a former Miss Canada. Before we went to break, we were talking about this big situation that happened to you. You've been quoted as saying you can be a winner even if you're not a winner. You had a very unique experience in 2013 where you won the Miss Universe Canada title, and then you had it taken away from you 24 hours later due to a tabulation error. Tell us about this philosophy and how it served you till
Mhm.
now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you're in it in the moment, it's just like, right. It's a shock to the system, right? You put in so much time, like I put in, right? Because I get very singular focus when I have a goal, and you put so much time and effort into this dream, and you're on this cloud nine, and then the next day I go into this meeting after having all these photo shoots and video shoots as like the queen, and to be told that there was and like they were looking very serious, and at first I thought that the director was joking. I thought he was actually like playing with me when he was like breaking the news that we had a tabulation error, you're actually not the queen. And at first I'm like and then he was still serious, and so that's when it was just like, oh my goodness, like this is real. And you go through the emotions of like, I was embarrassed actually. I'm like, oh my goodness, everyone's congratulating me online, and I'm gonna have to somehow break it to them that, by the way, not really the queen anymore. So I was
Awful,
like, I had that
awful, awful
embarrassment that I,
situation to be put in.
yeah, it was definitely embarrassing. I mean, it's happened to others since. Like, I don't know if you heard about Miss Colombia and Miss Philippines at Miss Universe, where they announced Miss Colombia on stage, like Steve Harvey.
Yes.
And then afterwards, he was just like, oh, my error, it's
Oops.
actually Miss Philippines. So they had to do it on stage while everyone was still watching live. So they're processing these emotions all while the cameras are on them. I at least had the privacy of just being in the room and with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, just there with me as I was taking in all this information. Yeah, so definitely was a roller coaster of emotions, but you know, stepping back and then just reflecting on what happened. You could be a sore loser about what happens, or you could just choose to make the most of it. Like I had an amazing journey to get to that competition. Every time I do any type of competition, I see it as an opportunity to improve myself, to become the best version of me in the process. And I had done that. I had accomplished that in that process. And I had, you know, I feel that because of what I went through, it made me stronger. It just builds that resilience in you by going through experiences that are disappointing. You don't get stronger by having everything go perfect and it's roses and butterflies all the time. You become a stronger person by having adversity. And it was tough. And, I had the media calling from all corners, and like they would find out, like, like my hairdresser. I'm like, how did they know who my hairdresser was? But and just to process this, and to speak to them while I'm still in this state of shock.
Yeah.
But like there were so many positives that also came out of it afterwards. I got to have some fun experiences. I got to judge Miss Teen USA, and I actually still work with the girls with the Miss Universe Canada organization. I help train the girls for if they've never been on a stage before.
Right.
And with even the basics of, like, how to carry yourself. Like, as I was mentioning, the journey is so important, because at the end of the day, one person wins.
This is very,
Even if
very
you win, and
true. So 5 seconds. A lot of our viewers want to be ambitious, but don't know where to start. 2 words. Where do they start?
you just take a leap, right? Martin Luther King, you don't know where the staircase leads, but you take that first step anyways. You just got to take a leap and don't look back, because if you don't start, you're never going to get anywhere.
Thank
have
you
to start
so
somewhere.
much, Denise. As we've just heard from Denise, the keys to success are creating good habits, having a healthy mindset, avoiding burnout, staying ambitious and turning off the negativity, staying focused and maintaining motivation even during tough times. Denise lives her life with her motto, an attitude with gratitude. Often enough, we find ourselves complaining about things and forgetting about being grateful. I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, and I'm here to empower you and make frugality fashionable. Bye for now.